Hi, I'm Chef Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making bottoms up black and white cookies, and I'll explain how they got their name in a little while. This is a takeoff on that iconic cookie from New York City, where they're shaped like a little round cake and half of them are chocolate and half are vanilla, and you don't have to share with anybody because you get your own, and they're usually pretty big. So let's do some mise en place first and get everything in its place. I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to get my dry ingredients ready now. So I have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I have a teaspoon of baking soda, that's our chemical leavener, and a teaspoon of table salt. I'm going to put that in there. This is actually a very, very important part of getting our recipe ready and a successful baked good. You want to whisk all these ingredients together, because if you don't get the salt and the baking soda evenly distributed, you're going to end up with little holes and an uneven hole structure in your little cakes. All right, so once this is done, I put that aside. In my electric mixer, come on over here, I have 11 tablespoons of softened butter. And I'm going to just put that right in there. And I have 1 cup of granulated sugar. And this is known as the creaming method of mixing. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use our paddle attachment, always the paddle when you're using the creaming method of mixing. And you're going to turn your machine on. The butter's nice and soft. The granulated sugar acts like little bits of sandpaper, and it's going to force air into the butter and actually almost turn it white and aerate it. This is a very important step because this creaming method, the air cells that form inside the butter are actually going to work as a team player with the baking soda and help to leaven our little cakes. See how that's getting nice and creamy? So you really want a nice, light, creamy mixture. I'm going to turn my mixer up just a tad. But you'll see that butter actually go from yellow to white. That is the air being forced into it and turning it that color. As it gets nice and light, we're going to take 2 large eggs, the whole eggs. I usually crack them into a cup or a measuring cup because you never want to get little shells and crack directly into the mixing bowl. I'm going to add 1 at a time right into the butter and sugar mixture. And I'm going to wait till it's evenly incorporated. Again, this is building what's known as an emulsion, a combination of fat-based and water-based ingredients. And we're going to get this luscious cake batter in a little while. So the second egg is in there. At this point, I like to stop my machine and make sure everything is evenly distributed. And I go around the outside edges of our bowl. That's a lot of noise. Put it on low speed now. I took 3 tablespoons of plain yogurt, or it could be vanilla yogurt. I put it into a liquid measuring cup and added 2/3 cup of milk, any type of milk you want, till it reaches 2/3 cup. And I'm just whisking it with a fork. All right, and it's discolored because I've added a teaspoon of vanilla, pure vanilla extract to it. We're going to add half of that. And you can see the egg and the butter mixture almost looks curdled, and that's okay. All right, that is perfectly fine. Then we're going to add half of our dry ingredients now. And you want to add these slowly or else you're going to get a face full of flour. So make sure you do this on low speed. We also have another reason for doing this on low speed. We don't want to develop any gluten. We want a nice tender black and white or little cake. Bottoms up black and white. So I'm going to add about half. And you don't have to wait and add it. You can add it relatively quickly. And you can see that our batter's no longer curdled. It's actually come together very nicely and it looks beautiful. I'm going to stop my machine for a second. I'm going to make sure everybody's in the bowl, including all the flour. Sometimes in mixing bowls it goes on the side, so just sort of bring that over. You can see it's looking pretty beautiful. Put that back in there. Add the rest of your milk and yogurt mixture. Now, why did I add yogurt? Yogurt is actually acidic. Baking soda needs an acid to react and form carbon dioxide gas bubbles. So that's our neutralization reaction to form those carbon dioxide bubbles that will help leaven our little cakes. Now the rest of our flour on low speed. You can always go around the bowl at the end with a whisk. Not a whisk, a rubber spatula. I'm going to push this last bit in. Get in there, you guys. All right, there we go. And that's it. You don't want to overmix. So let me show you this beautiful batter. Wait till you see it. It is absolutely gorgeous. See how beautiful and everything almost looks like a frosting. It's so beautiful. Yeah, get a look at that. So now, if you notice in the mixing bowl, there's a little bit of flour. I go around it with a rubber spatula, clean off your paddle. I know a lot of you are thinking, aren't you going to eat the batter? I usually don't because there's raw egg in there, but a lot of people do anyway. So if you're worried about salmonella in your area, I wouldn't. And I just go around the outside just to incorporate all that flour. Done, ready for baking. So let me clear some of this out. Super easy to bake now. Sheet pan with parchment paper. These should make about 14 to 15 black and whites, and I have an ice cream scoop that I've sprayed with nonstick cooking spray. I'm going to reach in. Oh, look at that beautiful batter. And you should be able to get about 6, depending on how big your sheet pan is, about 6. Don't crowd the black and whites, please. So you leave a lot of space in between them because they're going to grow. If you don't have an ice cream scoop, you can use a big spoon and a rubber spatula to sort of get that off of there. I'm only going to do one tray for you. They bake for only 14 minutes. They only take 14 minutes. You may need an extra minute depending on your oven. All right. I'm going to leave that over here. Straighten out my parchment paper, making sure it's flat. Into the oven for 14 minutes. Remember, at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. There we go. All right, guys, do your magic. Now, what do we have to do? We have to do our beautiful frosting. So I'm going to do a quick cleanup job because I want to make sure that everything is nice and batter-free when I do my frostings. The frosting is actually a little bit trickier than the batter, and I'll show you why. All right. Confectioner's sugar, 3 cups in a bowl. So this is going to be the base. This is going to be basically home plate for my vanilla icing, and I have my 3 cups of confectioner sugar. If it's lumpy, you can put it through a sieve, but I like just to whisk it. Perfect. Just like that, just to get any lumps out. 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup. That's going to give it a little bit of a sheen and also help the frosting or the icing to sort of set up. This is known as a simple icing because it's very simple to make, very easy. 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and then usually a little liquid water-based ingredient. So I do add 2 tablespoons of water, and if you notice I have way more than 2 tablespoons of water because sometimes you need more than 2 tablespoons. So with this type of an icing, this simple icing, also known as a flat icing, you want to be super careful how much water you add because you can go from real thick to real thin real fast. And sometimes you end up having to add way more sugar than you really want to add to thicken it up. So be patient. Sometimes the sugar flies around. We want it spreadable. We don't want it where we can actually drizzle it. This is the same type of icing without the corn syrup that you might put on cinnamon rolls, things like that. See how it's getting nice and thick? That's what you want. So I'm going to clean out my whisk, which is probably the hardest thing to do. I'm going to clean that out. Get everybody out of there. Come on out, sugar. Just get that out. And then I'm just going to go around. And it doesn't make a lot, but you don't need a lot. Remember, half the cookie is vanilla and half the cookie is chocolate. Black and whites. Bottoms up black and whites. All right, so what are we going to do to make half of this chocolate flavored? In here I have half a cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder. I'm going to take half of my icing here and put it in here. This is where the extra water may come in. So I may need some extra water, and I think I will, because cocoa powder has starches in it. So I'm going to bring over, and just add it by, little dribbles. Don't over add, because this is where you can actually go wrong. All right. And it will break up. It looks like it's super stiff. Just keep on adding a little bit of water, but don't go overboard. And be patient. It will take a little time. Once my cookies are baked, you don't want to frost them while they're hot. You want to wait till they've cooled down a little bit. All right. Still too stiff. I'm going to take an offset spatula to get all this gloriousness out of here. And that's what happens with this type of icing. It's very common. So, sort of looks like what I picture the surface of Mars to look like, right? But it's going to taste so much better. A little bit of water still. So my cocoa powder is really sucking up the liquid in here, but it's coming together. See it? All right, I think we might need just a little bit more water, but I want to get it out of here. It's really clumped up. And it's going to happen to you. It happens to everybody. Just clean it out. Sometimes I use my fingers and it will come right out, but it does get the lumps out of the cocoa. Cocoa can be very lumpy at times. If your cocoa is super lumpy out of your container that you've purchased it in, put it through a sieve if it's really that bad, or whisk it. Whisking, I find, is so much easier. All right. A little more water. And remember, I'm just drizzling. I'm not adding a tablespoon of water at a time. I'm really, see this? Okay. Go in again last time. So that's exactly what you're going to do, okay? You're going to clean that out and get rid of that whisk. Do not put this whisk back into your vanilla because you will cross-contaminate your vanilla into your chocolate. And if the vanilla gets a little stiff, add a little bit of water to that. As this type of icing sits, sometimes it will stiffen up. So over time, you may have to add, if you make this like an hour ahead, you may have to actually add a little bit more water. Very often you'll see milk being added. If you wanted to, or add milk if you want to, you can, but water works very well. And if you wanted to flavor something, let's say a cinnamon roll, sometimes people put like maple syrup on them, things like that. Just different flavors. All right, I have some I already baked. So this is what they look like when they come out of the oven. Like cakes, right? Like little cakes. Now the mystery of why they're called bottoms up black and whites. You want to know what the mystery is? Here, I'll show you. So you start putting white icing or black icing on half, and usually it's on this side. It's the flat side. I don't like to do that, all right? Because I'm a rebel baker. I like to do it on the top because you get more icing that way, right? So just sort of go down the middle, give yourself an area that is, you're not going to go past, so make sure it's halfway and just sort of spread. See, that's a nice consistency. If you see any rough spots, like it looks a little rough, don't worry about it. Because as it settles, it will actually smooth right out. All right? So once you do that to each one of them. What I like to do is put them in the fridge for a little while, just to firm up, and then I'll do the chocolate. So I'm going to put this one in the fridge. I have some that I've already allowed to firm up. And now we're ready for our chocolate. Ready for my chocolate. Yum. All right. So we'll take a little bit of this. Take one of your beautiful cookies. And again, I would put this back in the fridge after. And you just come down. Here it is, your black and white. Bottoms up black and white, right? So much better. I think it looks so much better than a typical black and white because it is bottoms up. Just do the best you can. I use an offset spatula. You can use a butter knife. You can use whatever you want. I'm dripping everywhere. Sort of smooth it around. And again, it will level out in your fridge. And if you do that, go straight down to straighten it out. Go over the vanilla icing. All right. There are no mistakes here because all you have to do is taste one of these to know how delicious they are. If you've never had one, you will want to make one because, well, you'll want to make several because they're so good. So there you have it. So I would put that back in the fridge. Let me show you what they look like when they're done. Aren't these lovely? Aren't these gorgeous? These are bottoms up black and white cookies, and I hope you enjoy them. I so enjoy making these videos for you. I hope you become a subscriber. Till next time.